Hi, everybody. I'm here with Dorothy Morgan, astrologer, as advertised. I was a little worried there for a while. we might, Dorothy and we both have had trying few months like everybody else
Oh,
has.
yeah.
My body broke down. Dorothy's computer quit on her. I'm not so
Oh,
sure I wouldn't have lived with something I could throw a pill at than something I had to throw.
I know. I lost a lot of I lost charts.
Mm-hmm.
I lost my most important folder, even though I back everything up. The universe just said, "Nah, no, clean slate,
Yes.
ma'am."
We're gonna move all the planets on you, Dorothy.
Yeah. Yeah, it was and so yeah, my most important files, all of them just gone. I did all the things you do when you lose files and blah 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 and this, that, and the other thing, but
They
nothing.
lie. I wonder how they can find stuff people wrote 10 years ago. I can't find what I wrote 10 minutes ago.
And I mean, I'm a diligent office person and I Capricorn moon, which means, I take what I do seriously
Hmm.
and, for the most part, and I back everything up. I even have an external hard drive sitting right here. And even on May 2nd, I backed everything up. But then when May 9th hit, apparently that's the one folder I didn't drag over, and I haven't drug over in over a year
Mm.
because yeah,
Well,
all of my most creative stuff. And I cried for a couple days, and
mhm,
it's taken about 3 weeks to get back to a normal place.
I know.
But I haven't recreated anything because I've decided I'm not going to recreate.
I'm just,
This is just a good lesson from everybody. Well, take it for what it's worth. But astrologically, I mean, I saw it coming, and I knew something was happening. But it still happened.
yeah.
It's I am not. I mean, I'm not oblivious to the astrology of it. Just like we're going to talk about the vibe of the day and
Hmm.
whatever else shows up, but it still happens. I mean, I could see it coming, but it's the planet Uranus, and he's a little unpredictable sometimes. And so there's only so much that I could be prepared for. And
Oh,
I was
really?
really prepared, and it still wiped me out.
You're getting, I'm so sorry that happened to you, Dorothy, things and people saying
Ugh.
my stomach's sinking just thinking about it.
Yeah, it was.
It really is. You
It
guys
really is everything that I created. And sometimes I don't think of myself as a creative person, and I remind people of this too. It's not just about picking up a paintbrush. I'm a photographer,
have. Hmm.
and I love the photos I take and how I create with that and the writing I do. And in losing all of that, I did have some things
Hmm.
backed up on Google Drive, but not the things I'm still trying to create, like all the YouTube stuff I do.
Hmm.
Some of those things are set ahead of time because saves an hour
Yeah.
every time I do something. I still haven't recreated that. I have to create from this point and not recreate. It happened during the
It's like
retrogrades.
it's like
Yeah.
starting all over again. And
And the
you
universe, and yeah, Nancy Jean and everybody, to me, like when things like this happen, whatever the vibe is, we're being asked, Uranus has been very active with the eclipses that we had
Mhm.
in the spring, and even last 6 months ago, um, they've been very active with Uranus, and that's like the step up for everybody anyways. And when things, like when the bottom falls out,
Mhm.
some it doesn't does impact everything for a little while, but when the bottom falls out, it really does not want you to create from that garden anymore.
Mhm.
it's like
No,
that's
not
like the it's like
that.
the garden is
Mhm.
like done. You've got to pull that soil out, and you've got to freshen it up. You got to give it new nutrition. You have your thoughts, you have your ideas, you have your structure, your foundations of your life, but you need to build from there. And that's what I was waiting for, the new moon, the full moon, and anyways, the energies, it was crazy hard.
I know. And I tell you, that last full moon kicked my butt.
It was just a couple days ago, or were you talking about before?
No, it's the last one we had because I waited and had my small biopsy done outside of the retrograde because I wanted
Yeah.
to, and I got a post surgical infection, and that and I thought I was getting along okay, and then that moon hit, and it was just like I went right back where it was. Not to tell you all my old lady health problems, but I'm feeling fine now. And for the people I didn't talk to for a week, I had one
Yeah.
woman who wrote me this email and like, I signed up for a reading da 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 days ago, and I haven't heard a thing, and blah blah blah. And then apparently she went over to my site to see what was going on, and she read my
Mhm.
post about I'm so sorry, but I'm ill. And so immediately she wrote another email saying, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Get better, get better."
Mhm. I
I never,
know.
I never dash off my first thought when I think I'm being ripped off because I'm usually not.
Yeah.
Um, anyway, we have quite a full house. We had quite a few questions.
Well, hi, everybody.
Uh, we're going to start with the questions, and then Dorothy will kind of, I'll kind of talk her through how I see the summer heading out, and I'll talk about portal dates, which Dorothy admits is not related to astrology; it's a numerology thing.
Mhm.
So, and this goes up first. Put questions in caps, if we'll get to them if time allows,
Mhm.
and um, oh, this was a comment. I don't know if you saw my post that went out for this, but I posted a thing about how upset I was when I found out my universal remote wouldn't wouldn't fix the universe, not even remotely. It just everything was bad.
That was so clever.
I found it. That was not my quote, but anyway,
It was so clever.
it says, "I wish I had such a gadget for the world around to make it a better place. Right now, in 10 of Canada's provinces, 7 of them are having wildfires burning.
Mhm.
Please pray for rain." Um, I live in Texas. You can't get much further from the Canadian border. Our air pollution is at an all-time high alert because of your fire, and it's
Mhm.
not your fire; it's our fire. We all contribute to that when we don't deal with global warming. So I
Mhm.
really am asking everyone to please pray for rain.
Yeah, it's pretty hazy here, and the sunrise today. Of course, the sun's a ball of fire, but it wasn't. You could look at it, and it was just a big red. It was a big red ball.
Mm-hmm.
And the sunsets are that way, and even the moon rises, and
That's
all
the
of those
effect of the
things.
ash. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm in New Hampshire, so I'm pretty high in the latitude, longitude. Which one is it? I
So
always get those
Canada's
two.
not too far from you.
It's not too far. I could be to Canada in 3 hours,
Yeah, you can just walk across.
maybe four.
Well, anyway,
Yeah,
we do pray for rain, and
yeah.
and I know we've had a very mild spring in Texas, and I really feel for you going through that. Okay,
Yeah.
now here's one. Can you expand on whether when the Earth era that went from when we went from the Earth era? This she's talking about this Jupiter Saturn 200-year cycles
Oh,
when we
yeah.
went
Okay.
from Earth to air, and I'm thinking this may be in part why all the native people were cannon fodder. She means during the Earth era that the Native Americans were wiped out because they were so tied to the Earth,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
the
That's
Earth.
that's an observation I wouldn't think of but maybe
Well,
that
and
could
the
be.
other part was it was that it's the white man's burden, isn't that what they used to teach us in our history books? That was what
Mm,
they used to think it was it was our job to go. And I'm white, guys. I've had my genes done. I'm about as white as you get. Um,
mhm.
and
Me too.
they had that burden that we had to go tame whatever we thought was wild, and then they let us name what was wild, and then they gave us the guns. So I agree, but I don't know if Vernie 444 has seen this, but another white buffalo was born this last week. They saw it in the
Was
herd.
it?
Yeah, an albino. It was born to an albino mother. That means there's two alive at the same time. It's extremely rare,
Nice.
and so, and that is in the I think Danny was saying it's in the Cherokee tradition and the Lakota Sioux. When the white buffalo shows up, that's peace for the people.
Hmm.
So, so
Well, they need it. They
and
need it, and yeah, they've just, yeah, they're doing a lot of things around awareness that is quite significant. A lot of
yes,
awareness campaigns. I can't think of a better way to say it, but um, yeah, I've been noticing that too. Just in the feeds. You know.
okay. And the next question came from VS, and she said she's a Virgo Sun, Leo Moon. Dorothy and I discussed this briefly. Libra Ascendant. How will the next 12 years affect my life? I have experienced lots of changes and losses.
Mm,
Um, She has had a divorce, a job loss, and the death of her brother. And I talked to Dorothy and I said, my impression of this is this woman really needs a personal reading because
Mhm.
it's great, your sun and your moon and your ascendant. It really, really helps pin down a lot of
Mhm.
things. But when you're talking about the kind of changes in particular in your life,
Yeah.
how are you at the beginning of Virgo or at the end? Are you in the middle of Leo or at the end? I mean,
Mhm.
all those things make a difference. Like my sun is in mid Taurus, but my ascendant's in very late Scorpio. And
Mhm.
that there's things that tend in astrology on the
Mhm.
degree that your signs are and the different things
Yes,
that
it does. Yeah.
so I'll let
And the 12-year cycle is means that, so it's just over 12 years that the planet Jupiter will move through every 360 degrees, so through every zodiac sign. So to say what will the next 12 years be like, it's like it will be like everything in your life will for everybody. So
hmm
this is unfortunately this is the misunderstanding of pop astrology. I mean, it's wonderful that you know the three, the sun, moon, and rising, but but the rest of it still doesn't make sense. And I understand that because you wouldn't know. You don't study astrology, and that makes perfect sense. But a 12-year cycle is a very, very long time.
hmm
Um, Jupiter will spend 1 year, just over a year. So usually it's 1 year and a few weeks in every zodiac sign. And right now it's in Taurus. It went into
yes.
Taurus earlier in the year. Gosh, I don't remember the date right now, but it was earlier in the year. Let's find it really quick. Um, yeah, because it was running through Aries. Yeah, it was on May 18th, May
hmm
17th, May 18th is when it entered Jupiter. Jupiter entered Taurus, and it's going to stay in there until I think it's May 24th. It is. It's May
hmm
24th, 2024, and so it's hanging out in the same zodiac sign that Uranus is in, and so just in that 1 year, Taurus is going to be highlighted. Taurus is wonderful in a lot of ways, but Jupiter will accentuate everything that it is connecting to, which means it's going to go through from 0 degrees to 29 degrees. That's 30 in astrology. It's going to go through all of the numbers. It'll retrograde in the middle of the year later on, sooner than later. And it's just going to expand that area of your astrology chart. It's going to bring things to your attention. But what will it bring to our attention? First off, we need to know where it is in your chart. So that's set
hmm
up by our birthday, time, and place. But that aside, because we can't talk about that here, I don't know where it is in anybody's charts, but Jupiter is in Taurus for everybody, for the whole world. So
hmm
what's going to happen with that? You know, Nancy Jean, is Taurus things are going to come to our attention.
hmm
Taurus is money. Taurus is food. It's the things that we love and value. My values are different than other people's values. So are yours. I appreciate getting my hands in the dirt. My neighbor says, "Ugh, I don't know how you can do that." You know what I'm saying?
hmm
It varies. And it is. I want to make it really simple like that because it is really simple like that. Because the astrology, if it's only about what goes on out in the world, because it does happen out there too, um, you know, then we don't get to use it personally. And so to use
hmm
it personally, we're all going to, especially since May, we've been and that was my May. Oh, what do I value the most? Went away. It impacted me having sessions. The universe said, "We're clearing the deck." I had no work for 3 weeks, which is the
hmm
rarest. I've never had that, which is
hmm
fine because I was not in the headspace to talk to anybody anyways. I was just too upset with what was going on. And so all of those things go on, and pay attention and look, and just even not knowing your own astrology, you're going to have a little inclination. There's plenty of you guys out there. You guys know a lot. You know how to work the energies and the vibes and pull cards and all of these different things. And basically it's telling you, it's like, we're going to hone in. It wants you, the universe, Jupiter says, pay attention to what is going on around the things that you value. So what's important right now, Nancy Jean, what's your main focus? Your health. that's
Right.
important for you right now,
Right.
you
It
know?
is. It truly
Yeah.
is. And I get arrogant about it because I don't normally suffer from pretty much anything. And I
Mm,
kicked my asthma, but we figured out how I kicked my asthma. It was
yeah.
it was a lot of the meditation and a lot of other stuff I did to relax. But what
Hmm.
mostly kicked my asthma was people quit driving because of COVID, so we had no ozone alerts. As soon as the ozone alerts hit a certain level, my asthma like feelings came back. Now it's not a true asthma, but I can use the same meds to clear it up, but I hate using them. I
Yeah.
mean, I just hate being tied to them. But after breathing well for 3 years,
Hmm.
um, I'll use them if it means to breathe well. It's like
Yeah.
I'll use antibiotics if it means that it's going to make this infection go away. Because
Yeah, exactly.
you know,
Yeah. That's the ego. That's just us working our egos.
hmm
And, even though you and I and all of us here, we do our stuff, we do our things to be the spiritual, energetic, helpful people we are, we still have our own, what to work on.
oh yeah,
We
oh
have our
yeah,
own things to work on and our own egos and our own
hmm
losses. And again, just like you and I were supposed to meet weeks ago, but I was like, and it was just like the
we
floor
both
fell out
cried.
from
We
under
both
both of
cried.
us.
We fried on the same day. She called me and I said, "Oh yeah, we were supposed to meet today." And she said, "Oh good, we're not going to meet today because I
I was
set
like,
an
thank
appointment at the same
God. It was like the day after I lost everything. And it was
Yeah.
like, there's no way I'd be such a jerk. I just wouldn't even be in a good mood. It was, yeah, it's a lot. So looking at the astrology, I mean, that's not today's main focus. There's a few things about today's main focus,
Mm-hmm.
which we can get to later. But generally speaking, again, for the whole year, we have that Jupiter in Taurus doing its thing,
Mm-hmm.
creating and expanding and showing us what needs our attention. And again,
Mm-hmm.
expansion isn't always great because sometimes too much of something, like you got sick, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and Jupiter is near, I mean, it's not conjunct your sun, but it's in the same sign as your sun. So that just shows us that, it's saying, oh, you got something going on here. I'm going to make it a big deal so we can catch it ahead of time before it turns into anything else. That's
Yeah.
how that works
Well,
sometimes too.
the thing I did learn was the first
Mhm.
antibiotic they gave me, it ends up I was allergic to. So I took it the first
Oh,
day.
jeez.
In the evening, I was fine. Took it the next morning, did my readings with Scott, and finally I texted him. I said, "Scott, we have to get off." So we stopped right at an hour and a half, which is still a lot of talking. Although I
Mhm.
talk all the time, but that was a lot of talking. I
Yeah.
got up, went in the living room, and I told my daughter I hadn't felt this bad in a long time. And she looked at me and she said, "We're taking your blood pressure." My pulse rate was up at 139 beats a minute. It got
Oh,
up to 180. We got it back
yikes.
down before it went off. The gets any higher than 180, I go to the hospital.
Yeah,
And
no kidding. You could stroke out if you're not careful. So
well,
yeah.
no, I don't have any plaque in my veins. I have the gene. I have the one good gene.
Oh, I heard that in
My
the in the in
body
the
doesn't make,
conversation. Who were you
yeah, my
talking to about that? Was it Sunday? I heard you
yeah,
talk about that.
my body doesn't make plaque anyway, which
Good.
is probably the only comforting thing when your blood. I mean, they kept trying to figure out how I could do this and not have a stroke. But anyway, so I called the doctor
Good.
who'd given me the antibiotic, and they said, "Oh, yeah, that's the one really bad counterindicated." And so they told me what to do, and we flushed it out. They gave me a new antibiotic, and it's worked
Mhm.
great. It's gotten rid of no spots before my eyes or anything. But she said, "You're really lucky. You know this. I have to wear a metal bracelet now because what they gave me was the most common antibiotic they'll give you if you're in an emergency accident and they think you need it. They'll just pour that stuff in your body. I'm going to have a bracelet now that says, nope, you got to go find Plan B because
Yeah.
Plan A is going to kill me." So it is, the world works in mysterious ways.
Yeah. Yeah. And that to me is, Jupiter is, people always say he's considered the great benefic. He's always going to be beneficial. But that's not the truth. He is beneficial and he will expand the things we're looking at. So another thing, right, that it can expand since it rules Taurus is, our way that we earn
hmm
money, so our
hmm
source of income and the money we earn. I
hmm
have my car is being inspected in New Hampshire here. We have it on our birth month. That's great. And I got to get that done on Friday, and I know I need breaks. It's going to be between $400 and $800. Thank you, Jupiter.
Yeah. Well, but your brakes will work.
My brakes will be better. We discovered it when I had an oil change last week. He goes, "Oh, these are squishy. Didn't you notice?" And I'm like,
Mhm.
"No, I drive it all the time.
Yeah,
I'm always in
it
it."
happens slowly. It happens
Mhm.
slowly.
So that's Jupiter too. Now I need to earn more money to pay for the brakes. I mean, which is fine. I mean, it always comes around. I always have faith in that because that's never a difficult thing. But yeah, it's like, so it's going to expand that. So we'll earn more money. So we'll pay the bigger bill and,
Mhm.
move on. And then, you know, it can also be like a major influx of, food that you're going to grow because it's this time
Mhm.
of year in the Northern Hemisphere where, you know, here in New Hampshire, we're like 3 weeks behind on everything still. And it's just been cool and
Mhm.
wet. And but pretty soon things will be much more abundant and start growing. And yeah, so
Yeah, I used to study with an astrologer who said Jupiter gets an easy ride because it's the biggest kid in the block. It's a bully.
mhm,
But she used to
mhm.
say it's nothing but a big bag of gas.
It is a gas planet. Yeah,
It
that's
is a
true.
gas planet. So,
It is a gas planet. However, it's I know this isn't officially astronomy, but Jupiter has such a large gravity because it's the biggest one out there, has such a
mhm.
gravity that it actually does protect us. It protects the inner
Oh,
solar
yes.
system because
It
it
stops
pulls
us
out
from a
it
lot
pulls
of crap that
meteors
hit
into it.
us. Yeah.
Hmm.
In
Yeah.
case you haven't figured it out, asteroids do not do good things on Earth. And if you don't believe me, ask your friendly dinosaur. You
Hmm.
know, it,
Hmm.
that's they're found another wipeout that it only wiped out what half the planet,
Hmm.
the northern half, but about 11,000 years ago.
Hmm.
And that's when there was a whole lot of shifts. And now they're finally that
Hmm.
go Becky Tebley and all these different sites that are more ancient than we ever thought we had humans. And it was like,
Oh my gosh, yes.
and it's the and they
Mhm.
think in a lot, and they found the oldest. It's older than Stonehenge. It's older than anything else. It's in Western Canada.
Mhm.
It's a medicine wheel that's so old they're really digging around in it, trying to figure out exactly how old it is. And what they do is they have to find something below the layer that they're looking at that they can carbon date.
Right,
And,
right. Yeah, it's not
and
easy
that's
to
what
carbon date.
but it's older than it's a big, huge medicine wheel, and it is a
Yeah.
medicine wheel. So,
What does it mean? All right. I'm looking. The reason I'm looking down, everybody, is because the only way I can see the messages is on my phone.
mhm. And I'm
So
not
I can
seeing.
see.
We've got one true question.
What
I
does
don't
it
know if
mean?
you want to try and answer it because there as an astrologer, I know how you'd have to work with it. I can read it in the cards for this lady. Her
Yeah.
daughter ran away, and she wants to know if
Okay.
she's going to come back. So I'm going to go find the question because I was going through to make sure I hadn't
Mhm.
missed anything. Remember,
All
guys,
right.
we don't write them in caps. It's hard for us to see.
And she did write that. While you're looking for that, I can answer Darlene B. What does it mean to be born on the cusp? That just means that you were born on probably the day that the sun moved from one zodiac sign to the next, because a calendar and the clock is just that. It's a clock that we've created. It is not synced up with anything. So, for example, Darlene and everybody, like the day the sun enters the sign of Cancer, so the day a person would be Cancer this year would be June 21st, but not until 10:58 a.m. Eastern time. So wherever your time zone is, you have to
Mhm.
adjust for that. So that means that before 11 a.m., let's just say before 11 a.m. Eastern on June 21st, a person would still be a Gemini.
Mhm.
And then a moment after that, it turns to Cancer. And then
Mhm.
so that's what it means to be born on a cusp. You're born, near it. You are one sign or the other. You are not both. So we can just put that misnomer out there. You will be one sign or the other. However, Mercury and Venus are very close, are inside our orbit. Think of the sun, Mercury,
Mhm.
Venus, Earth. So that also means that if your sun is one sign, say it's Gemini, that means Mercury is not going to be more than won't be any further away than the sign on either side. So if you're born cuspy, then you also might have other planets in the sign before or after the one that you're born in. So you're still going to have some, so you might still have some of those qualities.
Right.
Splitting hairs.
And then where your ascendant is. I mean, this guy's, it's like a big game, but being born on the cusp, I know so many people's, well, it means I can be a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And I said, no, wherever you were, wherever the sun was around us at that point in time, honey, that's what you're going to be.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you're going to be. I mean, I had a client years ago. I mean, we've become colleagues at this point. My gosh, 16 years now we met, and she never had her chart done. She was a reader in another way, but she never had her astrology. And when we first met, I did it for her because her birth certificate time, and she always thought she was an Aries, and I'm like, sorry, Taurus.
That's so hard for those Aries. I want to be independent. I don't want to be tied to the ground.
Instead of 29 degrees of Aries, she is 0 degrees of Taurus, because those are one here right next to each other. Yeah. But anyways,
that's an important degree. 29 and 0 are.
They are. One's a completion and one's a beginning.
So she knows why she's beginning the way she is. Okay.
Yes.
We're gonna go to Emerald Star. And I'm going to do this with cards, because without all of your information and your daughter's information, it's a very hard thing to put together for astrology. But I'm going to lay the cards out. I
have cards.
Oh, you do?
I am an astrologer, but I do cards.
What I do. I just knock myself off. That's sad.
I was like, where'd she go? It's a big white circle.
Dorothy, the show is yours. Now you
All right. I know how to talk. I'm a Gemini.
We got the table. We got the infamous table, the garden. And I'm going to throw a garden reading for all of us at the end, a universal one. But we'll look at this. Will Isabel return? And I'm always kind of reluctant to do these kind of really personal questions, because I have to tell you the truth. I have to tell you what the cards say. And okay. Will Isabel return? Not immediately, but you are going to find out where she is. When she comes back, she'll be rid of some of her worst habits. But Isabel has a very difficult life path that she's going through, and she's in the process right now of trying to solve. This is a 7 of Wands upside down, and when I see it, 7 of Wands means you've got all of he's like this right side up. Oops. Okay. He's like this when he's good. He's got all the wands, and he kind of knows he's got all the pieces, but he doesn't know how to put the puzzle together. And that's where she is. She's at the point now where she's putting the puzzle together. She's getting rid of whatever the demons were that were a part of her life that made her go away. But she's still not straight. She's still very stubborn, very arrogant, and actually hasn't quite finished working all these problems out. She is going to come. You are going to find out where she is, though. You're going to find out through either the justice system or something else, or someone's going to come looking for her, relating her back to you. And when you find her, it's not going to be her goal. So this is a real short-term reading. It's not going to be her goal to want to come home yet. She still needs to solve what she needs to solve. I'm going to do a quick reading on you right now, where you are.
Emerald Star, can you just write in how old she is? I don't need her birthday. I'm just curious what number.
I'll look at the end of the comments and see if it shows up.
Okay. I'm looking now. Oh, look at the card I got. I've just been shuffling. I got the tracker card, which is, isn't that something? I use a deck by Denise Lynn. I've been using it for years.
It's wonderful.
It's a great nature deck. And
she's 18.
Yep, I see that now. And the tracker card means just what you think. It's like, hopefully people are looking for her.
Mhm.
Hi, Crystal. I'll get to you as soon as Nancy Jean's done.
Okay. This is where you are. You're looking for a season of new hopes. You've started to rebuild your family because it was such a shock when this happened. You're kind of over it, being caught between your mind and your heart about it. You're not ready to let it go, but you've quit crying over it and quit worrying about it, and you're ready to move on. So, and that may actually be the universal energy that pulls her back in, because if you're ready to move on and you're not obsessing on her, you can perhaps bring her back. But what's most important is this for you: you're going on, you're rebuilding your family, and you're letting go of the pain. You are in the perfect season, astrologically and numerologically, to let go of that pain and to move on. Want to say anything else, Dorothy?
I'm going to pray for her too, because she's 18, and that's always a tough time.
Mm-hmm.
If there's any inclination of any news, if she, like you said, she took off on the 21st of December, and I'm just thinking of the astrology at that time. That's the winter solstice, so zero Capricorn,
Mm-hmm.
and we're coming up to the summer solstice, which is zero Cancer, which is like a full moon type of an energy,
Mm-hmm.
because they're exactly opposite each other. So there
Mm-hmm.
might be an opportunity for her, for some clue, some inclination. And if she has an elder person, not like
Mm-hmm.
yourself, but an elder person, I got that as one of the cards, the elders, like a
Mm-hmm.
grandparent or an aunt, or somebody else in the family that she might reach out to. That's the energy I get, and I feel. I feel for you. I understand. That's really hard. My daughter did the same thing a long time ago. She's perfectly well now. Life is rough it's tough at those ages.
Yeah,
So
I have my
yeah,
kids wander off and get lost as adults.
yeah.
They got in a divorce situation, all that kind of crap. I mean, this stuff. People say it's hard to live your life. It's harder to watch another life you love.
Oh, she said she found somebody in California. Okay, wow. That'd be that's tough
Well,
stuff.
if you can, my email is crystaldirections.nancyjean@gmail.com. If you will contact me, I will be glad to tell you a couple of other things I saw. I just don't feel confident saying it to community. Okay. It's not bad. It's really good for you. Okay.
All right. Now, a few people here are throwing me, sun, moon, and rising sign. I'm sorry, I just can't do that like this. Um, you
Mm-hmm.
know, it's not possible. There's too many things. You guys have seen astrology charts.
Mm-hmm.
There's lines everywhere. And so I get it. Well, this one person who is this all Cancer, hip and city. I said that wrong.
Hypnicity. It's hypnicity. And
Hypnicity. Thank you.
Miriam, and they're wonderful followers of my channel. This is one
Hi.
reason why I don't do astrology on my as a thing. I think we're
Yeah.
just trying to talk about this season that we're going through and change.
Yeah.
And thank you,
Yeah.
Hypnicity, for ordering the garden.
Yes.
I really appreciate that. And
Genius or fool. That's funny.
okay, here's one.
That's a good
Here's
question.
one you can answer. How do I
Okay.
learn my complete astrology profile? Houses.
Yes.
Ta-da!
Well, you can email me at Dorothy connect at DorothyMorganAstrologer.com.
Here's
And
Dorothy's contact information.
let me grab this book. This is my very first teacher. This woman we won't say we told her age. She's in her mid 80s now. I only saw her last week. She's written a dozen books on astrology, and this is one she just wrote as an 84-year-old, and it is The Beginner's Guide to Astrology.
Mm-hmm.
Dusty Bunker is her name. I mean, she's my first teacher, and I started back in the 1980s. This book is the absolute beginner's book, because the problem with a big problem with a lot of the astrology today, so much is available that if you are interested, you get confused really fast because it's too much and you're not learning it in the proper way.
Mm-hmm.
Because you get exposed to too many things too fast.
Mm-hmm.
So you email me your birth date, time, and place, and you have to have your birth time. You have to have your birth time, not a guess. You go and you find your birth certificate, or the little baby card, that they slip in the little plastic crib we have when we're born or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of times the birth time is there too. You have to have your birth time to set up the chart. But this is a fabulous book, and but just email me your birth info. I will just email you a copy of your chart. I do that all the
And
time.
you don't have to know how to spell Dorothy or Morgan. She's from New Hampshire and she's an astrologer and she's at Gmail. So it's NHastrologer at
Mhm.
gmail.com and you can find her.
Yeah,
And
that's my old address, but I still comes to me. So
okay, do you have another one now?
yes, I've been telling you for a year.
Well, see, I use the old one, so what can I say?
You do. I know you do. That's why I still keep that one up there.
Okay, anyway, and now,
DorothyMorganAstrologer.com. And that's it. Just put
okay,
connect
just
at
Dorothy Morgan. Okay.
DorothyMorganAstrologer.com. But I
Mhm.
get the other one too. That's fine too. It doesn't matter.
Okay,
I'll
and
set it. And somebody asked if I do chart rectification. I do, but you really have to have like a great journal.
mhm,
You really have to have a great journal, and it's expensive because my hourly rate is my hourly rate. And if you and I are sitting down and it's like, okay, I need to know when you did this, when you did that, and we just slowly will work the chart to a correct birth time.
do
Yep.
you want me to tell them what that is, or do you want to tell
Oh,
them?
what a rectification is. Oh, I can do that. It's when you don't know what time you're born. And you have to really set things up. When things happen to that point, people are calling the ascendant, which means what was east at the second you
Mhm,
were born. And that is in such an important place. It's set up because the earth is spinning, and it just shows us what was on the ascendant at the time you were born. And that is very, very important because it is the face to the world. It's
mhm,
how the world sees us before they get to know, oh, you have a sun sign or a moon sign. That's other personal traits. The
mhm,
ascendant is just how people see you without you saying a word. It's just the vibe you give off. And so
mhm.
to rectify a chart, I would have to ask a number of different. I've rectified my chart to 3:26 a.m. I used to bounce it around, but let me tell you, this May 9th, I will never doubt my birth time again because of the aspect I had was exactly on my ascendant. I mean, to the minute. So that's what a rectification is. And when we take a chart and we're not sure of a birth time, but you have to have a really, really accurate year's worth of that. Like, I know at this day on this, at this time on this day, this year, this is what happened. And more, I mean, you want at least, a
You want
dozen of
really
these.
major life events and things
Yeah.
that you can remember where things got changed.
Yeah, because it really is. It's a lot. It's a lot of work, but it can be done, and it's important because otherwise you do a noontime chart, and then there's so many things that you can't use when you don't know what a birth time is. There's plenty we can do, but the
Hmm.
timing of things we're not sure of. The moon moves like 12 to like 6 to between, I think it's between like 10 and 12 degrees in a 24-hour time period.
Hmm.
So that's really specific. So it's definitely going to change. It can change signs, or it's just, anyways, those are important factors for us astrologers.
Yes,
Yeah,
astrologers take. That's why I would never be a good astrologer. I'm not that detailed.
I am. But then sometimes I just F up on things, and I'll put AM instead of PM. Or I think the software
Yeah,
I think I'm putting AM, but the software decides it's going to be something else.
yeah,
We have to really be very, very diligent. I'm pretty diligent.
yeah. I
I
had a
don't mess
friend
too
who,
often.
the woman who taught me astrology, she did a rectification for her because this girl had been adopted, and so like all the times were all screwed up.
Mhm.
And when they finally finished her rectification to make everything really fit, she'd had some pretty major events in her life.
Yeah,
Um, she was actually born the day before they had told her. The people had been given the wrong time.
yeah,
I mean, it's amazing. So,
yeah.
and that's why I tell people, they say, well, how do you learn a chart? Well, the only chart I really know kind of well is my own. And I follow patterns in it. And Sure enough, it's like Dorothy said, now she knows with what was on her ascendant that day why her computer decided to get blown up.
I was so happy I have a few things that it only took one thing. It didn't it just my
Didn't
desktop,
wipe
the
you
OneDrive. It's the OneDrive's fault.
out. Hmm.
It's the OneDrive's fault.
Well, I do 6 month readings, which I'm still doing 6 month readings. And
Mhm.
that's 6 month is really from July to December. So as long as
Right.
you get in before the 1st of July, we can
Mhm.
get you the 6 month readings. And I had a reader that I read his 12 month reading in December.
Mhm.
And he said, "Oh, I'll record it on my computer." And this is somebody who does what we do. He recorded it, it went to the cloud, and it really went to the cloud. It went,
It's
and
gone. Poof.
so all of a sudden something came up, and he remembered from the little notes he'd taken, oh, this was an important month about this. So he went to try and see what else I'd said about it. And then he called me and he goes, I know I told you not to record it, but did you happen to? And I said, no, you said you had it. And I gave you control so you could record it, and I don't have it.
Yep.
So poor baby, I did a 6 month reading for him so that he could kind of catch up.
I record them, but sometimes when I see people fussing on, they're like, "Oh, well, how do I do that?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'll record it. I'll send you
Mhm.
the link." Never mind.
Well,
It's super
yeah,
simple.
I would have anticipated this person could have handled it, but it just, I think the universe didn't want him to have that version.
It's
Um,
probably it is. You have to let it process, and most people forget. If you're using Zoom, anyways, most people don't allow it to process. They just like clicking windows to close it because the session's
mhm.
over. But the Zoom has to process the stuff first. Anyways, uh,
Here's a question, all the way from Finland. Uh, Angela, is it common for Geminis to become a hermit? And
okay. Well.
she was born in Finland, so her chart's way, 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 way north, like yours, way,
Mhm.
way, way up New Hampshire.
Mhm.
Like, and she
Would
and
have to look at everything else. It's
I know.
not just related to the sun sign.
Hmm.
The sun sign is just one of 10 things that are basic astrology points to look at. Um, if you're born with the sun in the 12th house, you might be somebody who's a hermit. But it also depends on all the other planets and what they're doing. Maybe your moon's in the 12th house and that's keeping you that you withdraw. Or it could
Hmm.
be that you've just had a really hard experience and you're like, screw this, I'm out of here. I'm just pulling in like a
Yeah.
crab. So you have something you might have planets that are actually, like I mentioned earlier, you might have a lot of planets that are Cancer. You're a Gemini, which is about listening and
Hmm.
communicating and gathering information. The only way to do that is to be quiet and listen. That's hermit like. But
Hmm.
you can't generalize it, honestly. There's too many other things.
She's got a Leo ascendant. She calls it a lion, but I think she means Leo.
Oh, line. Well, oh, there you are. Yeah, the Leo rising is usually people who want um, to be seen and
Hmm.
heard and are public. Now,
Hmm.
it could be that with Leo rising, you could be a very public person. However, um, it could be overwhelming too. And being a Gemini, you're going to want to communicate. And you say you have a Virgo moon, that's more about details. There's too many things, there's too many variables to answer that question. And if you see somebody online that says yes or no, they're not paying attention to astrology very
Yeah, and
well.
if they're and before AI, there were a lot of people who had computer programs, and they just pump information in,
Mhm.
and then the computer sort of sorts through and says, "Well, these seem to be most important to me," and that's what those kind of charts spit out.
Yeah.
Because I've had a couple of them, and I went, "Really, really?"
And we can't forget that the whole astrology it's the whole thing. It's the bit it's the complete picture. When we learn astrology, we pull things apart because we have to.
Hmm.
Again, you can't, it's like throwing a puzzle in on I love puzzles too. It's like
I
throwing a
love them
pile
too.
of puzzles. You gotta sort something You've got to
Mhm.
start somewhere. And with the astrology, that's why we just start with simple things. And again, the problem with just overall problem with astrology available to everybody everywhere is you just hear too much and it's beyond your knowledge. When I first started studying, honest to God, I feel like I'm 200 years old. I feel we had books and you had to meet somebody and you had to know somebody. That's the author of this. She's here in
Mhm.
New Hampshire. You know, there was no internet.
Well, I've
Oh,
shown
it's
my kids
crazy.
when I first studied astrology, there were no computer programs that spit out charts. You had to
Hmm.
get out the ephemeris. You had to draw the lines on the chart.
You had to
You had
get out
to
the table, the chart of tables, and it was
Mhm.
trigonometry. I did it too.
And
I hated it. I hated it. And the
I
software
showed
I
my
use.
daughter though. I
Hmm.
showed her the chart I drew for her, and
Hmm.
then the one that we got the computer spit out. And she said, "You did that all by hand?" I said, "It
All
was
by hand.
hours. It was hours."
It was. It would take me. I never got good at it because the software I use now, the company has just
Mhm.
continued to advance the
Mhm.
software. It's Solifier. It's called. If anybody wants a really a nice the one, and I don't get any kudos or any kickback on this, but the app that I appreciate the most and I pass off to my students is Astro Gold. Astro Gold, and it's good
How do
for
you spell the gold? Is that gold? GOLD?
GOLD.
Okay.
Astrogold, Astro
Okay.
Gold app, and it's for you can put it on Mac, well, actually iPads, iPhones, the Android, certain tablets. It's not for PCs.
Okay.
I've tried it on a PC. It's not for PCs because they're filling a gap. They filled a gap
Mm-hmm.
that wasn't there for all of it. It's fantastic. It's easy to use.
Mm-hmm.
It's not so complicated. It's complicated enough because if it a little bit, but it doesn't give you so much advanced stuff that you get lost. It doesn't give you too much advanced stuff. The professional software I use gives you all kinds of advanced things, which I
Oh yeah,
barely
there's
use them.
some. I use Astromatrix because it's the first one I found and I got used to it. But
Yeah.
I have all my friends and family and stuff on there, so when they're calling me up, I can kind of do a quick look. Dorothy just froze.
Did I?
Dorothy, yeah, you're unfrozen now.
Okay.
Okay. Um. What is it? Leo had Gemini
Hmm.
husband is a 29-year-old Gemini. Oh, okay. This is kind of funny.
What is that?
Leo
Had a
had Gemini husband and now a 29-year-old Gemini son relationship. The person teasing the cat with a light beam.
That's fun.
all all in fun till the Leo gets tired of it. That's
That's
true.
cute. That's
I
cute.
have I'm Taurus who wants everything stable and wonderful. The just a gross kind of look at a Taurus. And I
Yeah.
have a Gemini daughter, so I always say who's walking through the door when she comes in. And I have I have two Pisces children, and it's true those fish are either swimming up or they're swimming down. They ain't got no halfway.
Yeah. I have a daughter that's a Gemini with the Pisces moon. So,
Oh, what fun!
she's both.
Good.
Oh, I know. Someone said, "Oh, this astrology is way too much for my brain to handle." It can be, Tammy. I mean, I understand. So honestly, I mean, just take it in small doses. Listen to what you can. One of the things that I do, and Nancy Jean, I'm just going to give myself a little plug on here on YouTube. I have my YouTube channel, which is just the new moon and the full moon forecast, but I have the YouTube shorts, and I've been doing them things like that for years, but I'm really heavy into the shorts right now. And so if you go to Dorothy Morgan Astrologer right here on YouTube or on YouTube, I do a daily thing. They're only 60 seconds long.
They're really
So
good though. They're
they're
really,
good
really good.
because I can't say much, Tammy. And in 60 seconds, I can just say enough. It's like, so today, this is what's going on today. Today, 6-6, we'll get to that.
Mm-hmm.
The moon's in Capricorn,
Mm-hmm.
and so that tells us that we need to be, we're leaning in for grounding, to feel logical, to feel practical, to use our wisdom. That's what we're doing today on a 6-6. What does the 6-6 mean? I want to hear. I've been
Okay.
waiting.
Okay. There we're gonna look at 6-6 is, it's every month has what they call a portal date. And with the portal date, they're really easy to remember. 1-1 is January, first month, first day. 2-2 is February, second month, second day. 3-3 is March, third month. We see a pattern forming here, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So 6-6 is when the number 6 universally, kind of the really just top of the level reading on it is it's hearth and home, people close to you, people you care about. And in this period of time, because of how the planets are pointing to about doing that sort of life lesson of, if you're in an airplane and they tell you to put an oxygen mask on and you have a child, put your mask on first, then put on the child's. We're at that point in our lives where we should take care and make sure we have oxygen before we worry about everybody else having oxygen around us.
Yeah, so true.
And this 6-6, and believe me, I've spent the last week thinking about oxygen and breathing. And so it's so vital. And when people say, oh, breathe, well, I listen to that on some days when readers say that, and I'm like, okay, take a good deep breath. But when you get to a point where you can't breathe, it's truly the most horrifying thing for me in my life, is to not be able to breathe easily and to be able to walk across a room breathing. And and Dorothy go, man, clearing her throat. I'm making everybody.
I know. I've been wheezy the last couple of days. And I mean, I used to have asthma, and I don't have an inhaler anymore. It's been too many years, but I've actually been wheezy the last couple of days. It's weird.
That's from the smoke. I am going to highlight this question for you, though, Dorothy. Anyway, what we're doing with 6-6. And
I was trying to answer her.
We're going to talk about our astrocartography. So some months, though, are just incredibly strong portal dates. I think most people who've watched the channels have seen 8-8 Lionsgate. And the reason 8-8 Lionsgate is important is when we hit that point, we are pointed to the absolute center of our universe on that date, 8-8. There's actually a whole period of time, but 8-8's kind of in the middle of it. And it's a really time when a lot of people feel a change and a sucking change. And 3 years ago, I was talking to a couple of other readers, and we ended up doing a show on 8-8's Lionsgate. Was the day that we saw humanity was walking in a line, and all of a sudden there started to be a split in the road, and people had to give up that feeling of guilt. And this was like in 2020, I think. And if you kept running across trying to pull people over onto your lane of the road, you were never going to make it. You had to make a decision. And humanity was starting to split into two rivers. And then we talked more about how that change was going to manifest itself. And then the next year when we met on 8-8's Lionsgate, it was how many people were finally to the point they knew they had to let people go, because they had to let them have their own belief system. And a lot of people were deciding maybe they couldn't try to, they couldn't manage the world, and they needed to start managing themselves and understanding that meant understanding their place in the world. And especially, I know among a lot of readers, the growth that we've had in the last few years is so much broader acceptance from people of what we do, and dealing with getting people to move along and accept their own power. And that's a big part of what that split we saw when we saw people walking into two different rivers, because one river was going to accept the power and accept the change and accept and understand. And we need to do that. And if we've looked at some long form astrology, we've got powerful we have a lot of planetary movement this year, but it's going to keep going up. And till 2026, we've got a lot of really dynamic things happening.
The Pluto transit, we can talk about that if we have time, because that would be a good thing to talk about.
But talk about astrocartography, and then we'll talk about Pluto.
Okay. Astrocartography is a The cartography refers to maps, and so what it does, you have to have in your mind, it's like, I want to move to a place that I can be really successful in my career, or I want to move to a place where I'm going to meet the love of my life, or I want to, so you have to, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
You you need to know what your focus is, what your aim is. Why would you
Mm-hmm.
want to move? And you will always have your birth chart, but the astrocartography moves the lines of where the planets are angular, and what that represents. Angular meaning ascendant. There's the cross that's in the middle of the circle, northeast, southwest. Those points are important. And when certain planets, if we move to different areas in the globe, those planets will become angular to different angles, the 4 different angles, and they give you a vibe for something specific. So to know exactly what is important for you. I mean, you might want, say, I don't know, to find the love of your life. That's probably not a good one to choose. However, which means the Venus line on the midheaven or the ascendant, it might be in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. So that's not really going to help you any. So this doesn't mean you won't find the love of your life. It just means you can't go live there. So
I really
astrocartography
like
helps.
boats.
She really liked boats. I have a, I say that because I actually have a thing that goes right through Easter Island,
Ah.
Easter Island, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, huh, I've always been attracted to the Moai. I wonder why. And then I was listening to something else, some of this stuff, this high vibe stuff,
Uh-huh.
and they believe that's the area, all of the islands out there, Easter Island
Mm-hmm.
and all the way to the Pacific, like even into Hawaii. That's where Lemuria was. And I've always been attracted to Lemuria. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, okay, there. I guess I'm from there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Not that I have to pinpoint anything. And that's not astrocartography, but in a sense, sometimes it is, because when we have
Mm-hmm.
lines in certain areas of the world, sometimes we have an ancestral connection there. And it doesn't have to mean our DNA, our
Mm-hmm.
physical DNA. It's the soul. So it's so fun. I have fun with it. And speaking of astrocartography, Nancy Jean, you and I have talked about this before.
Right.
2 eclipses. We have 2 eclipses. I wish I could share my screen. Am I allowed to share my
Yeah,
screen?
let me oh, I don't know if I can do that from here.
Okay. That's okay. Let's see.
I'll have to find that for next time. No, I can't find it in settings either.
I want you just to know then. There's this you've seen it. There's this big X. We have an eclipse. Let me grab my notes. I don't have it in my brain right now. Here we are. We have an eclipse October 14th, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a solar eclipse. It will be visible, and it comes, I think it's visible, and it comes from the West Coast, and it goes into the Gulf of Mexico right across Texas. And then 6 months later, another solar eclipse, April 8th,
Mm-hmm.
2024. And that starts in the Northeast and goes west, and they all crisscross at San Antonio. And
And their shadow goes all the way up to where I live. Yes, I know that cross very well.
Texas is getting its ass handed to it this year.
It should.
Well, sometime.
It
You
should.
guys you guys are I've been listening to you. Excuse me. And the politics, and I've had a few clients from Texas, and I'm like, what's it like? What's it really like there? And so I'm hearing that, I'm really hearing the truth, because I'm in New Hampshire. I'm a Yankee. I don't know what's going
Mm-hmm.
on in Texas. I only know what the news is telling me is going on in Texas, but I don't listen to the news. I actually read what I want to hear or what I want to know. That's it. So yeah, you guys are in
This
for.
last week we learned that Beto really won and Biden really won, but they pulled 2.5 million ballots out
I
of the
heard you talking
race.
about that. I didn't know what that was about, because
That's what
again,
it's
I don't
about.
pay attention to what's going on for you
And
guys.
it's like they're saying it all out and loud and proud. And the thing is that a lot of the local in Harris County, the one they're trying to take over, not to bore everybody else in the rest of the country, but Houston, where they're trying to take it over, they have 19 women judges that were all elected at the same time. They're all African American, and they're doing everything they can in their power to get the state the hell out of their county. There's really Houston's just as a block of people, it's just unbelievable
Yeah.
block of people. And um,
How
Houston's an
awful
area.
that so many people's votes just didn't even count.
No, they didn't even weren't even given the opportunity to have them count. So
Yes.
um, that's going to be a huge part. There's a lot of toing and froing in lawsuits, which I
Mhm.
tell people find out the lawsuits file, and unless you're one of the lawyers filing it, put it away until you find out what they said.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, and I'll tell you a little. My story about astrocartography is when I
Mhm.
went to London when I was 17, I could walk around the city without a map, especially when you got in the old part, the Dickinsonian times.
Just
I could
remembered it, huh?
walk. I could walk across Lincoln Inn Fields, and I went right to UO Curiosity Shop, and I went to all those places. And I don't have that kind of a mind for a map. But and my second husband, who was born and raised in London, went to university in London, didn't get out of London until he moved to the United States when he was 31. We went back when our youngest was 4, so he could see where Daddy had grown up. And we were in London, and my husband said, "Well, we need to get down to the Thames so we can find a tour boat." And he said, "We're going this way." And I said, "No, that's the wrong way. The Thames is this way." And he said, "I grew up here. I went to the university that's in this town." So we walked for 3 blocks, and I said, "I don't see any river." And so finally we stopped and asked some nice person. And I always ask, because if you're a Yankee, they'd stop and tell you if you had, he still had a British accent. They'd look at him like, "Why don't you know where you're going?" So then he said, "Oh, you've gone quite the wrong way." And he pointed us back, and Bill looked at me, and I said, "I don't know what it is, but when I was in London, every time I was ever
Mhm.
there, I could find my way around everywhere." And so one of my goals in this life was to go to the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts. And I
Mhm.
got an application thing, but my parents said I had to do 1 year at American University before I could go out overseas. And then that was just a thing to get me in a school and then tell me I couldn't go anywhere else. My parents were lovely people. Um,
Oh my
so,
god.
so, so and I really kept trying to get to London. I tried to apply for things that could get me there. My husband and I
Yeah.
tried, not the one from Britain, the one that wasn't from Britain. He wanted to go live in a foreign country, and I want to go live there. I found out from having my astrocartography done that
Mhm.
probably the worst place in the world for me to live in this lifetime was London. It was just not a good place at all. And I said,
Wow.
"Well, I guess the universe spared me the problem of learning that the hard way."
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense.
But I love it when I'm there. It's gorgeous.
I've
I'm
never
not
been
saying don't
there.
go to London, you'll enjoy it. But
One of these days, I guess. Tammy was asking because
hmm
she's waiting on the birth of her great nephew. Listen, I have a fabulous report that I have on my website that you can get for babies. I prefer that grandparents or grands whatever read them before
the
they give
parents.
them to the parents, because sometimes there's stuff in there where mom might not be as present for baby as the baby wants mom to be. Mom, brand new mom doesn't need to hear that
No.
later on as she's getting as people are getting older. So I don't necessarily encourage people to buy newborns this forecast. You can buy it. I
hmm
created them for my grandsons so I could see what was going on with them. I mean, they're old now, they're in their 20s. But um but that is something that's quite unique. And I even recommend it for people like for you, for me. When I first,
hmm
that's the reason I purchased this piece of in addition to my software, it actually makes the report. And I know the
hmm
astrologer who wrote this report.
hmm
It's nice because you can look at your own childhood. You can look at your
hmm
own childhood and say, God, I really needed that kind of nurturing and I didn't get it. No
hmm
wonder. And then you can work on your own
Then you work
issues.
your shadow issues.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, and it's written pretty plainly. I mean, it still gives you the
hmm
astrology terminology, and then it says, "And that means," and then it tells you. So, yeah, those things are fabulous. And even if you have a 2, 3, 4-year-old teenager, it doesn't matter. Again, I read mine once every once in a while. I'll create it again for myself and read my own. I'm like, "Oh, that's right. I'm doing that again. That's that childhood thing."
hmm Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know. We pick our paths, and sometimes we say, "Nah, I don't really want to let that go."
Yeah, they're there for reasons. But
So,
yeah.
the summary is that we're still not out of the woods, but this summer, well, oh, the other one I was going to tell you, 8-8 Lionsgate, the last year when I was there, I was in
Mhm.
Colorado. I was sitting at dinner with Debbie Freebird and Sheila and one of my oldest friends and
I
Vivian from
remember.
Puerto Rico. I mean, it was just an incredible mix of folks and a friend named Brenda. And
Mhm.
while we were sitting at the table, they announced that they'd raided Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah.
And we're all sitting there. I'm sitting there with two women who read politics all the time. And they're like, they said, we're kind of glad we're out of house so that we don't have to go sit and start reading that immediately.
Yeah.
And we did a thing I do with crystals when I have parties where everybody picks a stone, puts it in a place, and then I
Mhm.
interpret it for them.
Mhm.
And we all had great things coming to us, and we saw our years opening up. So I'm just saying 8-8 Lionsgate for me is a big portal date. The other one I
Yeah.
wanted to tell you about before we stop is 11-11, which is in November. And
Yeah.
they say think of the two 11s as the pillars opening to the new year. You're going to start to get the vibration for
Mhm.
2023 will be in November of 2022.
Yeah.
And Dorothy, do you have anything else you want to say and close out? And I'm going to throw the stones for the collective.
It's well, we have a lot we could talk about with Pluto moving back into Capricorn. It's
We
in
can do that
Aquarius.
next month.
All right, let's do that next month. Yeah. Yeah, there's
'Cause
a lot to talk about there. If you really need to know the 1111s, guy, ladies, especially ladies,
Mhm.
see, we all have it on our forehead right here.
I don't. I don't.
No Botox on this face.
No, no, no. When I was in college, they had to draw age lines on my forehead, and they finally said, "Well, they said crinkle your forehead," and I said, "I am." Finally, they were pushing it together, and I have
Yeah.
one of those faces that doesn't like to wrinkle.
Oh, good for
What
you.
a what a pity. I know.
What a pity.
Anyway,
You're
we're
right.
going to go to the table,
Thank you,
and we're
everybody.
going to
It's been
throw the
wonderful.
stones. And okay, I want a message for the collective for the coming month until Dorothy and I are together again doing this, something like this. Oh, wow. We got them sort of spread out. People who watch this, and we've got mind in the root chakra. Oh, mind in the root chakra. Is creativity is the key to all of our security, and we have a little bit of the mind and go for it. And when it says your thoughts are leading their way, so this is going to be kind of an in your head kind of month where a lot of things are going to come to light. We need to pay attention to them, including having our spirit go into restate, which is, remember when you're talking to Dorothy about how a lot of stuff will flow in and now you have to restart the garden. That's what
Mhm.
restate is. It's you're going in the right direction, but you need clarification. So you'll be giving this option to look at your spiritual side and kind of weed out the stuff that doesn't work and maybe learn some new stuff that does, like get
Mhm.
more familiar with astrology in a way. Clarification is in false. And it says, right now, our vision is very clouded. And I keep getting that a lot.
We do
Now,
have Neptune and Pisces for a
I
long
know.
time.
And we've got a lot of crap being thrown at us. And the other part
Mhm.
is there are many paths ahead of us, and the correct one will appear in the future. That's what the earth is telling us.
Mhm.
We have our grounding in earth, and this is pyrite. It's a stone that I use here. And it is saying that more is being brought forward. So we're not the beginnings of being changed. And lastly, I have the body, which is sort of our physical self, but it's also our physical world around us.
Mhm.
And it's in air and a little bit in the present. And in air, it means ground your thoughts. You're getting a lot of grounding. You're going to get a lot of stuff flowing in. You need to pull it in and ground it, make it real. And in the present, it means at this time, this is the pattern. That's telling me that this is a good reading. So we're
Mhm.
really at a mental growth point, and you should look at whether it's card reading or pendulums or astrology or whatever. Look at the different voices that speak to us and then sort them out, weed them out, and decide which works for us, because a lot's going to be brought forward for us to act on, and we need to learn how to act on it. And that's kind of my message for the month until I meet with Dorothy again.
Nice.
And
I like it.
11/11 is your birthday, Kathy H. Wow, you got the 11.
Nice.
And I would highly recommend Dorothy as an astrologer. I don't call astrologers readers. I do know some have a better sense of the information they're looking at than others, but.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, if anybody needs wants a copy of their birth chart, just email me and get this book if you want to learn, and I'll send you a copy of your chart that you can use with this book. This is a great way to learn.
And
this is only the basics.
Mm-hmm. The best, and what I like about what Dorothy reads, the way she reads, is she reads about who we are and how we fit in the universe. And there are universal things you see coming that cover everybody, but she really grounds it to your life and information, news you can use.
Yes, yeah, things you can use, and even you don't have to know astrology.
That's true.
I think I have allergies today.
Yeah. Thank everyone for listening, and I'm sorry I started wheezing, Dorothy, but anyway, we'll talk to y'all later.
Look at that, it's 1:11 here. See ya.
Okay, it's 1:11 here. It's 2:11 where you are.
It's 11:11 on the how long we've been talking. That's what it is. Bye, everybody. Bye. Thank you.